So what makes a $40 soap so unique? Today I'm reverse engineering a $40 soap to find out why is it so expensive. Is it the ingredients? Is it the process? Is it the branding? Is it the huge amount of work that goes into developing a long-lasting, a strong scent? Today, we're gonna find out. And if you're completely new here, my name is Perry. I have a background in chemical engineering and a master's in biotechnology, and I'm obsessed with understanding formulation. I'm obsessed with understanding the why behind things and how you can make your own soap and skincare at home. And if you want a free PDF that shows you how you can make a balanced soap recipe with coconut oil, shea butter, olive oil, and castor oil, together with a long-lasting essential oil blend, then comment soap and I will send you the free recipe as soon as I see your comment. So let's get down to this video. So there are a few brands that sell soaps around this price, more or less slightly higher or lower than $40. But let's look at this one. Let's go down to the ingredient list because this is actually what's very, very, very interesting. So what happens here when you check the INCI list or the International Cosmetics Ingredient List is that usually things that are in higher concentration inside your soap are the ones indicated first. So for example, here we have sodium palmate, sodium palm kernelate, aqua water, and then we have all of these, which is, I'm going to talk about what that is in a moment. Through the ingredient list, we understand that this soap, the majority of this soap is sodium palmate, sodium palm kernelate, and then it's basically all of this, which is fragrance and colorants. So let's take a look at the ingredients. Sodium palmate, and sodium palmate is very, very unique. It comes from palm oil, and the way soap making works is that you have your oils like olive oil, coconut oil, shea butter, palm oil, beef tallow, castor oil, and so on. And then you have sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide is basically a substance that all it does not exist in the final soap. All it does is that it converts your oils into soap. So you don't have any sodium hydroxide left in your final soap because it has all reacted. It has all reacted with oils to create soap. So for example, sodium palmate is actually palm oil that has reacted with sodium hydroxide to produce sodium palmate. Because as you know, if you take palm oil and you just rub it on your hands like that, it won't start bubbling, it won't be cleansing, it will just make your hands greasy and very oily. But if palm oil reacts with sodium hydroxide, it will create sodium palmate that is water soluble and cleansing. And the good thing about sodium palmate is that it has a very stable lather, it's high in palmitic acid, it's very long lasting, and it creates this very creamy lather and conditioning lather that is very unique of palm oil. Then we have the second substance is sodium palm kernelate, and sodium palm kernelate comes from palm kernel oil. Okay, so this is basically the seed of the palm fruit, and palm kernel oil is basically an oil that is high in myristic and lauric acid, and when those react with sodium hydroxide, they produce substances that are extremely water soluble, and guess what? They bubble a lot. They create a lot of bubbles and a lot of lather. So here's what these two ingredients do together. You have two ingredients that the combination of the two create a lather that's very conditioning and creamy because of the palm oil, and the very bubbly and cleansing because of the palm kernel oil. Then we have water, which is a byproduct of saponification because you actually dissolve your sodium hydroxide in water before you mix it with lye. And then we have those substances here. So here you will see glycerin. Glycerin is basically also a byproduct of saponification. And then you have basically all of this up to here. So from here up to here, apart from the glycerin and the palm kernel acid, the rest is mainly basically substances that contribute to the scent. So it's basically a mixture of fragrance oils and essential oils. So fragrance oils are synthetic, fragrance oils are very stable in a soap making environment, they're very long lasting, and essential oils are natural, they're very deep and complex. And by the way, if you want access to Soap Hub alongside with 20 video lessons that will help you go from an overwhelmed beginner to a confident soap maker and formulator that not only copies recipes but designs their own recipes based on their own goals, then remember to sign up to the waitlist below. I have a one-time offer only. From August 26th, you can join my video course and bring someone with you for free. So both people, it can be a sibling, a friend, a partner, whoever you want, you can bring them with you for free and you both get lifetime access to the private community, to 20 video lessons, and to Soap Hub, which is the soap making tool that I have developed. It has already transformed the soap making of so many people, and I would love to hear what you have to say about it. Now, when it says parfum fragrance, it can actually be many different ingredients. So whenever you see this word parfum fragrance, it can actually be 10, 15, 20 different ingredients that are actually indicated inside this parfum fragrance. And then the rest, for example, limonene and so on, or linaloyl acetate, lilanol, these are substances that you have to actually indicate in the label if you have them inside. So limonene, for example, you cannot just write it inside the fragrance group area. According to law, you actually have to indicate if you have limonene or linalool inside your fragrance, and that's why it's indicated separately here. And then you have substances like, for example, citrus aurantium peel oil, or citrus aurantium bergamia oil, which is bergamot. So those are essential oils. So it's basically a mixture of a lot of fragrance oils and essential oils to create a very unique fragrance. And then we have the colorants, which is ultramarines and this red color here to create the effect that they want. So let's go to the cost analysis and let's look slightly bit behind the why of these ingredients. So if we look at the different categories of oils we have here, you will see that we have this category here of shea butter, cocoa butter, lard, beef tallow, and palm oil. Those all oils are actually very similar to each other. They all have a high concentration of palmitic, stearic, and oleic acid in different ratios. For example, if I look at beef tallow, it has oleic acid, palmitic acid, stearic acid. If I look at palm oil, it actually has a very high palmitic acid, oleic acid, and a bit of stearic acid. So palm oil, the reason why it's so unique is because of its high palmitic acid concentration. Palmitic acid concentration is basically when it reacts with sodium hydroxide, it will produce sodium palmate, and that's what gives a very luxurious, long-lasting, and creamy lather. And the same with cleansing oils. So we have in the cleansing oils category, we have coconut oil, babasu oil, and palm kernel oil, and they all have a very high concentration of lauric and myristic acid in different ratios. So this is where basically lauric and myristic acid, they will react with sodium hydroxide to produce an amazing, creamy, and cleansing lather. So let's look at here. Let's build actually this recipe from scratch. So I will go here in the oils. So I will choose palm oil, I will add it here, and I will also choose palm kernel oil. Now, what we can do here is just, if I were to make a soap with palm oil and palm kernel oil, the way that I would do it is that I would use something like 75% palm oil. So that's going to be enough to create a very nice, luxurious, creamy, and stable lather. And the rest, 25%, it was going to be palm kernel oil to create a lot of bubbles. Of course, I wouldn't basically add too much palm kernel oil because you don't want your soap to be too cleansing. If it's too cleansing, it's going to be quite drying. So you can see here, for example, it tells me Soap Hub will predict and tell me it has a good lather balance, it's bubbly, balanced cleansing, good hardness, standard curing time 4 to 6 weeks, because usually if you have a soap that is made with a high concentration of olive oil, Soap Hub will tell you unfortunately have to cure it for minimum 6 months. But with palm oil, you don't need to do that. You can have an amazing lather, stable, luxurious, creamy, and cure it for only 4 to 6 weeks. Here on the scent blend, actually I don't know the exact scent, so I'll just put a random scent like that. Basically just for the cost analysis sake. And let's go to the cost analysis tool here. So in the cost analysis tool, we're basically going to choose a total of 1,000 grams, so 1 kilo of oils. Out of this 1 kilo, 750 grams will be palm oil and 250 grams will be palm kernel oil. Now, Soap Hub basically will let you choose what's the price for that. So palm oil, it's quite unique here because you can find palm oil from your typical soap making supplier for around $10 per kilo, depending on where you are in the world. I live in Europe. If you live in the US, maybe it's cheaper, maybe it's more expensive. It always depends on the country you live in. So, but here's the thing. If you were to produce soap in bulk, if you were to produce soap, thousands of soap, then you would buy palm oil in bulk. And when you buy palm oil in bulk, the price can drop to as low as $2 per kilo, because that's how the demand and supply works. The same with palm kernel oil, it will be around $9 per kilo. Sodium hydroxide, that's the correct price here. We just leave it like that. And when it comes now to the scent, it's quite interesting because we don't know how much the scent actually costs. So I'll set that to 0 just to see how much the soap actually costs without the scent. Using only palm oil and palm kernel oil and sodium hydroxide, you will be able to make a soap bar for $1.7. This is a 120 gram bar of soap, and then it will also suggest a retail price which is basically 3 times the cost. But this number does not include the fragrance, it does not include the colorants. Of course the colorants will be very cheap. I put a bit here on the labeling, $0.6. So if I remove the labeling and the packaging, is actually only $1.19 per soap, which is of course very, very little. And if you were to make it bulk, these prices up here would be much, much lower, and then the price per soap will be very, very little. But of course you have way more expensive. So you have packaging. This can be, for example, $0.3 per bar. You have colorants, let's say this is $0.1 per bar, and you have fragrance oil, which can be anything. It's really hard for me to estimate that in detail, but in total the whole soap can be something like $2.6 per bar. But of course I'm not saying that this soap is overly expensive, because I understand from a business perspective the amount of work that needs to go into that soap to create the fragrance. When you are in a soap making environment, of course, you're in an environment of high pH and high temperature, which is a very harsh environment. And during those harsh conditions, scent, especially essential oils, they tend to degrade. So designing an essential oil blend or a fragrance oil blend that is long lasting and still has a very nice throw and it's very intense is actually a very big challenge. And then you also pay for the branding and the storytelling that each company has. Also, industrial soap making is slightly different than traditional homemade soap because they remove a big part of the glycerin and sell it separately. And that leads to a soap that is much, much harder and more long lasting. But at the same time, it might be slightly more stripping because glycerin actually really helps to prevent drying the skin out. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about the price yourself? I would love to know. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.